Good morning, everybody. My name is Juan Pablo Sanchez. I'm a customer success manager here at LUMU. And today I'll be taking you guys through what LUMU is, what we do, and how we help organizations to operate cybersecurity in a more efficient way. We do this by illuminating the threats and adversaries. So for a while, organizations have been focused on keeping the adversaries out, keeping those threats outside the organization, and that's why they have their current cybersecurity stack defined or designed to basically do that. But we here at LUMU think there is also a better way to do that. There is also a different way to operate cybersecurity, because we've seen in the past that attackers can stay hidden in the network for long periods of time while they get access to more files, they infect more machines, and they basically get more power and control for the network, so they can launch a more powerful attack and more effective attack to the organization. So we do this by using the continuous compromise assessment model. The continuous compromise assessment model basically tells us that we need to assume you're compromised and prove otherwise. So we're going to assume there is already an attacker inside the network, and then we're going to prove he is there, and we're going to basically know exactly what he's trying to do. So we are going to intentionally look for compromises inside the network. We're going to be identifying if any of the devices from inside the network is having any kind of conversation with adversarial infrastructure. We know that if any device is doing that, there is something going on. There is probably an attack going on. It might be a malware talking to a command and control side, for example, or a ransomware trying to exfiltrate data or something like that. So we're gonna identify if anyone is having those kind of conversations, which definitely are not what we want. And if any device is doing that, we know something is definitely going on. We do it by implementing the continuous compromise detection. So we need to do it in a continuous way. Usually, cybersecurity practices are done periodically, for example, pen testing and vulnerability assessment. But we think the compromise assessment needs to be done in a continuous way and in real time as well. And that's going to basically let us measure the effectiveness of the current cybersecurity infrastructure and provide feedback so we can take action and we can respond to those threats and to those incidents LUMU is going to find. So we need to prove how effective my current cybersecurity systems are, my policies, the policies I have in place, and then take action for that according to what we find. How do we do that? We do that by collecting network metadata. So any kind of attack, any kind of, let's say, ransomware, for example, is going to use the network to communicate with, for example, a command and control server. So we know that in the end, network metadata is the ultimate source of truth that is going to let us know exactly what's happening and to identify which IT asset might be compromised. The first source of network metadata we ingest and we use is DNS queries. So any kind of attack, the first thing they're going to try to do, or the attacker is going to try to do, is try to resolve a domain name. Probably is going to be a server he already compromised or a site he already owns and controls, in which they're probably going to have, let's say, the command and control server. So if we see any kind of malicious DNS resolution inside the network, we know something's going on. We know that there probably is a machine already compromised there. Besides DNS data, we also ingest firewalls and proxy logs. Why is this important? Because not all the times the attackers are using DNS systems or domain names to communicate with their systems. They can also do that by communicating, let's say, via IP addresses or other types of systems. So we also ingest firewall and proxy logs, which is something most organizations already have to control that external access. and we ingest that information to determine if any IT asset is having that conversation with adversarial infrastructure. But that's not enough. After we've identified what or the compromised machine, and we proved that there is a compromise going on and the attacker is already inside the network, we want to measure the impact it has to the organization or to the network. So that's why we also ingest net flows. This is going to let us know if there is any lateral movement, for example, and it's going to give us information about how the attack operates. So this is also going to be very valuable information so we can identify exactly what's going on. On top of this network metadata, we also ingest spam box emails. So most of organizations already have email security tools that are in charge of, let's say, quarantining spam emails or trashing spam emails. And we think that's good, but we think it's better to analyze that spam email. We've seen that a huge number of attacks start by let's say, a phishing email or a spear phishing campaign or something like that. So we know analyzing those spam emails is going to be very important. We're also going to take that information for the organization and correlate it with all the other sources of metadata to see if one of those spam emails contain, let's say, an indicator of compromise that we saw in any of the other network metadata sources. This system basically, or this approach basically allows us to deploy LUMU in any kind of architecture, network architecture. This is going to work in on-premise environments, public and private clouds as well. And we're going to adapt this LUMU data collection process or design to accommodate any kind of network that can be on-prem or on a cloud. And also, we also have solutions for roaming devices. So we know that there is a lot of users, for example, working remote, and we also want to protect those devices as well, those endpoints as well. So we have the capability to deploy, let's say, a small agent to those devices so we can monitor them regardless of the network and gateway they are using. So that's also going to be very, very important. And what we do with that information, and this is going to show us where LUMU sits. LUMU sits after the current cybersecurity infrastructure. So the organization probably already did an investment on these kind of systems, which are probably already working good and doing their job. But we need to make sure that we measure the compromise level after these systems have done their job. So LUMU is going to sit here, is going to measure that compromise level from those systems. We're going to monitor which devices are the ones originating those contacts, which is going to give us the compromise level. And what we do with that information is, of course, the organization gets it right away, that compromise level, but we close what we call the feedback loop. So we take that information, that compromise level that contains very detailed information about the incidents, for example, and indicators of compromise, and we send that information, we push that information into this cybersecurity stack the organization has. So we push that back to them so they can, or we can adjust the policies we have and take action immediately. So we have basically two parts of the product here: LUMU Insights to measure the compromise level, and LUMU Defender, which takes that compromise level and that information and sends it back to the cybersecurity systems to take action immediately. So this is going to definitely reduce the impact any of these incidents has to the organization. All right, so now I'll be logging here into the LUMU portal. This is where we can operate LUMU. All its we're going to see everything that the tool provides us, and you're going to see how easy, simple it is to use the portal and to actually get to get actionable information from it. So I'm going to log in here, and right away this is going to take me to my overview dashboard. My overview dashboard is where I can see kind of like the snapshot of the compromise level of the organization. So I'm going to see a lot of information. Let me start with the activity dashboard. This is basically the representation of the compromise level of the organization or the network across time. So in this case, we're looking at the last 7 days, and we can see this gray area in the background means network metadata records LUMU has processed, and these bars represent IOCs or indicators of compromised that we've contacted or someone has contacted here. So in this case, we see that in the last 7 days, we had, let's say on August 17, this number of contacts, 24 contacts with command and control infrastructure, 49 were malware, 50 were related to other types of attacks like crypto mining or spam campaigns or something like that. So this is going to, for the last 7 days in this case, let us know how the organization is doing. And I can, let's see, at the last 30 days here. This is the compromise level of the organization in the last 30 days. So the way most of organizations use this is they look for these kind of spikes like the one we had on this specific date. And if they have any kind of spikes like this one, they know something's going on and they start working on it. They start their remediation and mitigation phases or cycles to start reducing that number of incidents here. So the way most of organizations use the activity dashboard is by trying to look for these spikes. This bar is going to represent that we had a lot of malicious contacts on this specific day. So basically what this tells us is that something happened around this time frame that started originating those contacts. So we had to take action. After we took action and we did our remediation, for example, we investigated the incident and we did our remediation and mitigation, we saw the spike go down, which is basically what we want. So this is telling us that this is measuring the compromise level of the organization, and it's also measuring the corrective actions we're taking. In the end, what we want, let's look at today, for example, in the end, what we want is to have a gray graph here that it is going to have no compromises, which means we achieved a zero compromise status, which is definitely ideal. So this is going to let us know how those incidents and those compromises are distributed across time. But that's not enough. We also want to identify which devices inside the network is the ones that have those or are originating those malicious contacts. So that's where the distribution dashboard comes in place. Distribution dashboard in this case is just going to be a snapshot, a general high-level snapshot that gives me information about the most affected devices or assets in the organization that have had those contacts. In this case, let's change my filter here. For the last 30 days, we've processed over 24 million records of data, and we found over 1,000 malicious contacts for the whole organization. So if I click here, I'm going to see the groups that are most affected. And just before I continue, groups or labels for the portal is just the way we have to group those IT assets. So LUMU gives you the capability, the possibility to group the IT assets any way you want. So you're gonna have you're gonna be able to create labels for any group you want, depending on how the organization is segmented. You can have, for example, a label for a specific business unit, or a label for a specific physical location, or let's say a label for a network segment if you want to be that granular. So you're going to have more control over what you see here, the groups you have, and then I'll show you in a moment, you're going to be able to prioritize better the specific groups you want to investigate and look into. So in this case, I can see that my operations group has most of those contacts, and my sales group also has a good number of contacts. And if I click in any of those groups, I'm going to see the specific devices with most of those malicious contacts as well. So this is, from a high-level perspective, allow me to focus on specific groups or IT assets in the organization. So this is also going to be very useful if I want to start investigating and taking some action immediately. And going back up here, now that we've identified number of incidents distributed across time and incidents distributed across the different IT assets across the organization, we're gonna also have access to the latest incidents. So right away, LUMU is giving you information about those domains or IOCs that we are contacting. In this case, for example, we see, and these ones are organized by most recent contact. So in this case, we can see that 3 days ago, we had contact with this specific site, which is related to a command and control and malware threats in this case. We can see this one, for example, malware. And we can scroll here a little bit just so we can get a picture of what's going on. So some organizations use this dashboard to monitor how the organization is doing, let's say on a daily basis. So if you come here and you see that you have some incidents related to, I don't know, spam or phishing, well, that might not be as bad as seeing something related to command and control and malware. So if at any point you see something like this, you know there might be something going on and you might decide to take action and do something about it right away. We also have information about incidents, some metrics. So LUMU is going to create incidents here for any of these contacts we see with these malicious sites. So here you're going to have information about the number of incidents that are open, number of endpoints that are affected, and number of labels that are affected. So this is also going to be very useful if you want to know how the organization is doing. Depending on how you operate cybersecurity, you might say that the more number of endpoints affected, the higher the compromise level is, or the higher the risk, or the bigger the impact, for example. So you might decide to take action right away as well. And labels, again, you want to know if there has been any lateral movement across the different groups, for example, in the organization. If each of these labels is in a different network segment, for example, and you have a firewall in the middle, this could tell you that the firewall is not doing what it's supposed to do. Maybe there is a policy missing or something like that, that is letting some traffic go from one network to the other one for these kind of attacks to move laterally. All right, now after we've seen the big picture of the organization, I'm going to do an investigation of a specific incident. I'll show you exactly all the information we can see and LUMU gathers for specific incidents here. So when I want to start my investigation, I would go to my incidents module here. And when I do that, first, again, I'm going to get some interesting metrics about the incidents that we have open, total number of contacts, and so on. Also very, very useful information. But I'm also going to see this table that contains all the details about those incidents that LUMU has created. So again, I have information about all these different domains, all these different IOCs. I could also see IP addresses here if we had captured or identified any kind of threat related to an IP address. So the way I would use this, and this is how most of organizations do it, is they start filtering this information so they can prioritize what's more important. The first filter you can apply is a filter by type. So this is going to be type of threat in this case. I can apply a filter and see only command and control attacks, for example, malware, mining, spam, and so on. So in this case, let's focus on command and control only, which are one of the most critical ones to any organization. But I don't want to see any command and control. I'm going to focus on specific groups, for example. So I would go to my labels and look for a specific group. I have access to each of the groups I have created here, or each of the labels, marketing, operations, sales, for example, and all the other groups I have created. But also each of those groups has a business relevance that I assigned to them when I created those labels. They can be low, medium, and high. For example, if I have a guest Wi-Fi network, that's going to be low priority for me because I don't control which devices connect to it, so I cannot take action and do something about the IOCs we find there. But my servers network, for example, the one that handles payment information, is definitely going to be high business relevance for me. So this is where I would start my investigation, and this is where this is the labels I would give more priority to. So let's select high business relevance in this case, and this is going to pull up all that information on all those IOCs that, according to this filter, are a bigger impact to my organization. And for each of these IOCs, I'm going to have information about the endpoints that are affected, total number of endpoints affected, labels that are affected, and total number of contacts also. And this is also going to be useful for me because it's going to let me focus on specific IOCs. In this case, if you look at this one, it has 391 contacts. And I know this is a site no one should be contacting 391 times in this case. I see that we have 3 endpoints affected across 3 different labels. So I'm going to start investigating this one because it's the one that has most contacts in this case. So if I click on the IOC, it's going to take me to the incident details. I'm going to see at all times the domain or the indicator of compromise in this case, the date in which the incident was open, the status of the incident, in this case it's open, because I can also, after I've done my investigation, my mitigation, my remediation, and after I took action, I can come here to the portal and close the incident. And this is going to be very useful because I can also take action in the portal, and the portal is going to take or keep track of everything me and all the other agents in this case are working on. So I'm going to be able to see exactly what's happening with those incidents here. I also have a description, and this is a description to the type of threat. So LUMU ingests over 85 sources of threat intelligence, and these threat intelligence sources gives us information about, or allow us to know what type of threat is related to each of these indicators of compromise. In this case, this one is related to a malware family called Ryuk, which is, by the way, one of the top 3 ransomwares going around. So I would know that something's going on and I need to look into it right away. I also have case history, so I can see if any other agent already read this incident. In this case, they did. This agent read this incident on this specific date. So maybe he's doing an investigation, or maybe, I don't know, he's working on it, so I can use this to not overlap with what he's doing. I have incident activity. This is also the distribution of the contacts across time, but this time is going to be only with this specific IOC or this specific domain. So I can see that the contacts started on this date, and then we had pretty much daily contacts until July 15, in which the contacts went down, and then we had this sporadic contacts across time as well. I also have information right away about the endpoints that are affected. So this is also very, very useful and important information. I can see in this case that we have this IP address with 4 contacts on these dates. This one, for example, I was able to capture the actual device name, and this one as well, that if you look at the number of contacts, has most of them. So definitely the one I would start investigating right away. So if I click on any of this, it's going to pull up information about each of those contacts. First, I'm going to see the timestamp of each of those contacts, the source that LUMU used to get that specific contact. If you remember, we can ingest network metadata, DNS, NetFlows proxies, and we can also use or deploy the Windows agent to those endpoints. And the Windows agent, in this case, was able to capture information about the user that was logged in, the client IP address, and the Windows process that originated the contact. So in this case, I know that Google Chrome was the one that originated that contact. So maybe there is like a malicious plugin there, or the user is open a web page that is generating those contacts, or something like that. So I would already know where to look. So I would go to this specific device on this specific IP and look at Google Chrome and see exactly what's going on there. Okay, so I already saw those contacts, how they are being originated, the specific devices. I got a little bit more information about this specific incident. But let's say I have no idea what Ryuk is, I don't understand, I wanna know or measure the compromise of me having, the compromise level of me having contacts with this specific site. So what I would do is click on compromise contacts here, and this is going to take me to all the investigation LUMU did on this specific IOC. So first of all, we have information from some of our threat intelligence sources, in this case, VirusTotal, URL House. If I click in any of these links, I'm going to be taken to their pages in which they have their technical and very specific analysis on this specific IOC in this case. So I can also start my investigation there. I have access to the compromise radar, and the compromise radar is represents the pattern of the contacts. So this is going to show me the day of the week and the time of the day in which those contacts are being originated. So the way we would use the compromise radar is start looking at this day by day, because I know it might look a little bit complicated sometimes. So the way I would do this is let's pick a day. Let's start by Friday. So if I filter out every other day, in this case, I'm only seeing the contacts originated on Fridays for the last 180 days. So as you can see here, we had on Fridays contacts starting at midnight, going up to 8 a.m. and we have 2 contacts. You can see it says 2 hits there. We have 2 contacts every hour on the hour in this case for this specific time frame, and we also have some contacts for 6 p.m. in this case. So this would already tell me that there is an automation going on, because we have contacts every hour at a time frame in which the user is not supposed to be using their machine. If I look at another day, in this case, this Wednesday, you can see that we have contacts also pretty much the 24 hours of the day. We can see here that we have 6 contacts and we have 4 contacts here at 11 a.m. But pretty much we have contacts the 24 hours of the day. So again, this tells me that there is an automation going on. And I can look at any other day here, so I can investigate this a little bit more. After I've identified the pattern of those contacts, I want to know if there has been any lateral movement associated with this indicator of compromise, with this incident or domain. So I'm going to go and look at the attack distribution, which is going to show me the total number of contacts we've had with that specific IOC, but I'm going to be able to see how they're distributed across time. So in this case, you can see that the contacts started in my operations group on July 8th, and then they moved probably to another group on July 11th, and then they went to my LCP group on July 13th. So I could assume that there has been some lateral movement, and that's why they started here, which is where I have my patient 0, and I would start investigating that device. And then they move to another 2 groups. If I click here, I can also see the specific devices that had those contacts. So in this case, you can see that only this device is the one that originated 378 contacts. This is the one with the Google Chrome process that originated those malicious contacts. So after I've looked at the pattern and the attack distribution, I want to learn more about the specific threat. So I can go to context and start taking action. First of all, I'm going to have the list of threat triggers. So this is going to be the list of domains, URLs, IP addresses, anything that we found associated with this specific IOC. From the portal, I can, if I wanted to, download the list of threat triggers here, and I could use that list to create, let's say, a rule in my firewall to start blocking right away. And this is going to be the manual way of doing that response. But I can also automate that response. So instead of me, let's say, downloading this and creating the rule, I can, via LUMU Defender that I was explaining at the beginning, automate that response, and I can have LUMU communicate directly to my firewall to create a rule in this case, so I can block any further contacts and prevent, let's say, any data exfiltration that is going on. I also have my related files here. If I had any files associated with this specific IOC, I would see their hashes here. And this would be the list of hashes that I can also download and do the same. So I could take those files and create a rule in my EDR or in my antivirus solution to also look for those signatures as well. And also, again, this is something we can automate using LUMU Defender. We have the API available and some out-of-the-box integrations as well. We can communicate with that EDR, for example, and start pushing these IOCs, these files to that solution so we can automate that response. We also have some related resources. So these are external articles from the experts curated by us, in which the experts explain what, in this case, Ryuk is. So if I have no idea what Ryuk is and how it operates, I would probably start here. Let's say, let's look at the first link we have. It's from CrowdStrike, and it says, what is Ryuk ransomware? This is the complete breakdown. So this is going to start explaining me and letting me know exactly how this works. These links usually have very, very valuable information going through or starting from the emails these campaigns or these attackers send to the ransom notes they leave after they're done their encryption or data exfiltration. So this is going to be very, very useful for me as well. I can take a look at these articles, read some of them, and learn more about the specific threat we are dealing with here. And the last thing I have about the context information is the attack matrix. So this is the MITRE attack matrix for the enterprise, and it has all the different tactics, techniques, and sub-techniques associated with the specific incident. So this is going to be basically kind of like the attacker's playbook, because it's going to let us know what the attacker wanted to do and how he wanted to achieve that. So in this case, we can see that this threat is associated with an attacker trying to execute something or do a defense evasion, command and control, as we saw at the beginning. And we can see that, for example, for execution, he is using, or he could use, a Windows command shell technique. And if I click in any of these techniques, this is going to pull up information that comes from MITRE directly, that contains information about platforms, for example, that are affected, description of the thread, and I can even go directly to MITRE so I can learn more about the specific sub-technique. So this is going to be very, very valuable information, because this comes from the MITRE standard, and it's going to let me know, without having to leave the LUMU portal, what's my exposure of my level or my level of risk by having these contacts with this to this site. And also what I can do here is toggle this all button here, and I can see the whole matrix. If I want to see how this incident fits inside the matrix, I can do that at any point by doing this, and I would see the whole matrix and how this specific incident fits in it. All right, so this is all the information we were able to capture about this IOC. And as you can see, we were able to start by looking at the pattern. We saw attack distribution for lateral movements as well. We were able to see the specific incidents and contacts my devices originated. We were able to take action, manual and automatic, because we can do the API integration from the portal as well, because we can download threat triggers, related files, We were able also to learn more about the specific threat by looking at the related resources, and we were able to see what the attacker wanted to do and how he wanted to do it by looking at the attack matrix. After I've done that, what I would do is go back to my incident. After I've done my investigation and my cleanup and remediation, I would go back to my incident and I would take action. So I want to keep track of everything that we're doing here in the portal. And I have different actions I can take. First of all is close the incident. So I can just add a note here, close the incident, and that's going to let everybody know that we already cleaned up the machines that were affected, for example. Or if at the end it turns out this was a false positive, or for some reason these devices had to contact this IOC because, I don't know, they were doing some testing, for example, I can just mute this incident, mark it as not relevant or false positive. And what this is going to do is basically reduce the number of alerts we're going to generate, because this specific IOC or this specific domain is not going to be alerted again, or we're not going to generate another incident for it in the future. So this is going to reduce the number of alerts, reduce alert fatigue, and let us focus on what's really important and what we want to see here in the portal side. So I can also do that as well. And yeah, so I think that's it for now. That's how we can use the portal, as you were able to see. Very easy, very simple information. So it's going to definitely allow organizations to operate cybersecurity in a more efficient and easier way. All right, and remember, you can open a LUMU free account at any point. So, and you're gonna have access to most of the things I showed. You're gonna have access to pretty much every module I showed here, and you're gonna be able to start doing the investigation of the organization in like less than 20 minutes. To do that, the only thing you have to do is go to portal.lumu.io, click register here, enter this information. You don't need a credit card information. This is going to stay free forever as well. After you've created your account, you just have to sign in here, and you just have to first create a gateway in the portal. And the way to do that is you go to collectors, then gateways, and then you just need to add a new gateway, enter the information about it, and that's it. After that, you just have to forward your DNS to us. These are our 2 DNS servers. You can do that. It takes less than 5 minutes, and that's it. You're gonna have access to the LUMU portal, everything I showed, and you're going to be measuring that compromise level in real time in less than 20 minutes. Yep, so again, thank you very much. That was all for now.